The Washington Nationals, they have a need over at third base, and now they could be bringing back third baseman Jeimer Candelario, but is that the right move?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Again, search Locked On Nationals there, and that is where you will find us, including on YouTube. Make sure to hit that subscriber button. Later on in today's show, the Oakland Athletics will no longer be the Oakland Athletics. It's going to be the Las Vegas A's, and that is official now. I got some thoughts on that. And really, just generally, we as fans, we do know what it's like when a team leaves your city. It's not fun, but the reality of it is maybe there could be something coming up Oakland's way. We'll discuss that at the back end of today's show. Also, kind of talk about why the Nationals shouldn't be too desperate to fill too many holes, because you can count a lot of different holes on this Nationals roster. But with that said, you probably shouldn't be pressing to fill all of those holes through free agency. I'm going to explain why I say that a little bit later on. But let's start off with talking about Jeimer Candelario and the reports of him possibly coming back to DC. And before we get that, today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. So you've all seen the reports by now that have kind of been floating around from Jesse Rogers from ESPN that Jeimer Candelario and the Nationals could be making a little bit of a reunion after flipping him at this deadline for Kevin Midday, shortstop Kevin Midday, and as well as left-handed pitcher DJ Hers. That was kind of like the move we all expected. In fact, that was the move that the Nationals were always wanting to do back when they signed Jeimer Candelario to a one-year, $5 million deal. That was always going to be the goal, is to hopefully trade him at the deadline. But one thing became very clear as the season kind of went on during 2023, seeing Jeimer Candelario at the hot corner, was that, number one, he was back. I mean, when we talk about good third baseman across Major League Baseball, Jeimer Candelario over this year, at least in the NL, I mean, there was it ever going to happen? When I say this, there were some talks about him being an all-star. I mean, he was really good over the course of the first half of the season for the Nationals. And really, when you kind of get into it, and what he did best, in my opinion, was, number one, we all know what issue this Nationals team had this year. It was the lack of slugging, the lack of extra base hits, home runs. Well, Jeimer Candelario, in the 99 games that he played with the Nationals, had a 481 slug and 823 OPS, and in that time as well, hit 16 home runs and 30 doubles. Jeimer Candelario was such a pleasant surprise. I remember when the Nationals signed him last winter, I was just kind of like, why are you doing this? You've seen what Jeimer Candelario does. He's not solid defensively. This is someone who is coming off of one of his worst careers offensively, and the Tigers said, we'll pass on him. When the Detroit Tigers say, yeah, we're good on this guy who's still in his 20s, still relatively young-ish, someone who you can still kind of have a building block piece to, the Tigers said no. Well, the Nationals, they said yes. They gave him $5 million, and we were so wrong, or at least I was wrong. I won't speak for you. But when the Nationals did that, it just wasn't the flashy, sexy move that I was really expecting. But now the rumors are back that they could be signing him to a multi-year deal. Now, at first, when I think of it, I'm like, I think of Brady House. I think of Yohandy Morales. I'm like, is this really the Nationals' best position to do this, to really kind of sign someone to a multi-year deal at this moment in time when you do have multiple third baseman prospects. And it's not even considering Trey Lipscomb, who just won a Gold Glove, by the way, down in the minor leagues for playing third base, playing it exceptionally well. The Nationals, their third base depth down in the minors, it's really good. That is something you don't have to complain about. But when you're talking about Candelario here, do you really want someone like Jeimer, which, again, I love, played very well this year? Do you really want someone like himself blocking potentially Brady House or blocking Yohandy Morales or Trey Lipscomb, whichever one of those three guys were to come up first here? Because that's really what it comes down to for me. Jeimer Candelario, while I like the production, while I also want to see this Nationals team get better, and if you look at it right now, it's pretty obvious that the Nationals have a glaring need over at third base. You saw Ildemaro Vargas play third base really once Candelario was out, and as well as Carter Kieboom. Both those guys, minimal production at the plate. While Ildemaro Vargas was a little bit better over the time, and he did have some stretches over this season that he was pretty solid in, Carter Kieboom, on the other hand, our former top prospect, one of the better third baseman prospects in all of baseball back in the day, we saw that instantly. It's not going to happen with Carter Kieboom anymore. And if the Nationals were to go into 2024 with Kieboom as the starting third baseman, what are we doing? Let's just be honest right then and there. You can't go into 2024 with Carter Kieboom or even Ildemaro Vargas for that aspect of it. If Ildemaro Vargas, if he's going to be on this roster, which he is, he already signed that one-year extension with the Nationals, then he's going to have to be a utility guy. And that's where I kind of think the Nationals are going to use him. They have no plans of using Vargas as a starting third baseman or even a second baseman or a left fielder, whichever hole that you kind of look at and say Vargas could play that. He's not a starter. He's going to be a utility guy with this team going down. And then on the flip side with Carter Kieboom, who really knows what the Nationals will do with him at this moment? You would like to see Carter Kieboom turn around, but after the last few years, you just can't bank on that. He had his opportunity to kind of prove himself this year, getting the starting nods a lot of different times over at third base. He came up, started a little bit hot, and kind of got some eyes turning. Other than that, it landed back down on earth. So with the Nationals getting back into the market of Jeimer Candelario, number one, it would just be wildly entertaining to kind of see someone sign back with the Nationals. Really, after we traded him away for prospects, Candelario knew what the business was. If he was going to be good this year, then he always knew that he was going to get traded. He's a pro. He's a vet. He knows how the business works. So now to bring him back, that's really the question right now. Would you bring Jeimer Candelario back? With all that said, with the concerns of Brady House, with the concerns of a logjam down in the minor leagues, I still would consider bringing back Jeimer Candelario. Now, our friends over at Spot Track, they have this market value where it kind of just gives you an idea of what this player could be signing for. And what they have Candelario at right now is about a 3-year, $35 million deal, around $11.6 million annually for the next 3 years. That's kind of what they think Candelario will get in this market. He would be the 15th highest paid third baseman for someone who may give you top 15, top 20 production from there. It would be a decent signing. But it's also Jeimer Candelario, if you were to sign him to this deal, I don't think it would just be a third baseman. I think the Nationals would probably have something up their sleeves, maybe have him be a switch hitter, a designated hitter. And you could also try out the experiment of just trying to put him over at first base. Because we know right now, that's probably the Nationals' biggest hole. And the reason why I say that, even over a third base, is because we got the prospects down in the farm for third base. But on the flip side, for first, you have no one. You have no one that you can say, I feel comfortable with this guy making the majors in 2024 and making a pretty big impact. The only first baseman truly that you have that has some promise in the farm system is TJ White. And TJ White was not great this year, to say the least. So with the Nationals, if they were to go after Candelario, I would be okay with it. I would be fine with it. And really, with all that said, if he's going to give me the same production as he did this year for the price that we'll be paying for him, I think that's something that you just can't miss out on. Because the Nationals, the reality of it is, they aren't too far away. You can see the help coming. You can see the process really taking its turn and hopefully getting to a better place with this Nationals team down the line. Now, is Jeimer Candelario going to be the cherry on top of that for you? Probably not. Is he really going to impact this team in a way that we've never seen before? Probably not. But still, Jeimer Candelario, again, an above average major league hitter, at least what he was for 2023. And he was a good clubhouse guy. And of course, solid defensively over at third base, as which we've kind of talked about with Carter Kieboom there. You saw the dip in production defensively as well, but you also need that bat. And a switch hitting bat, the way that Candelario was this year and the slugging potential that he has, I think that is an important feature to this Nationals lineup. And at this moment in time, you just have to take those opportunities when you can get them. So to wrap this all up, it's a little muddy. I would sign Jeimer again. I would be interested in it. I think the Nationals should do that if they really want to pursue this. I think it's kind of a low risk, high reward kind of signing, just similar as it was last year. You're not giving them that much money. You're giving them around $35 million, probably a little bit more when it's all said and done, because I'm sure teams will be in on Candelario. But will teams want to give him a multiple year contract situation here? Who knows? I do think the interest is there. I think the Nationals would want him back. I even think Davey Martinez back at the trade deadline said he was someone that they would 100% welcome back to the team in this offseason. Good locker room guy. Run it back with the Candyman, I guess. I'd be all in for it, but we'll just have to see what free agency does and what the Nationals do with free agency moving forward. Thank you guys for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can check us out over on Twitter at LO_Nationals, and make sure to check out the show page as well. Search Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube, and hit that subscriber button, please. Pretty please, in fact. So now we're going to get into this, and I kind of touched on it a little bit here in the first segment, but why the Nationals shouldn't fill too many holes through free agency, at least yet. Well, I'll explain to you as to why I think that, and as to why the Nationals probably shouldn't be too eager filling all these holes here this offseason, because we know there's a lot of them, but also the Nationals shouldn't get too desperate at this moment in time. We'll discuss that before, but we got to tell you guys about our good friends over at Jase Medical. And guys, we spend a lot of time talking together, you and I. We get fired up together on wins and losses and who starts and who sits. And I'm thankful for that connection that we have. And today, I want our chats to be a little more personal. I just learned that you can get a 1-year supply on ED medications. You realize what that means. Bring on extended travel. Bring on the next natural disaster or supply chain issue. You are covered, my friend. You don't have to worry about whether or not you can refill your generics for Cialis, Viagra prescriptions, and this is possible because of our friends at Jase Medical. Go online right now at jasemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. Again, promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. If you are someone you love, would get some peace of mind by having a year supply of any daily med, go to jasemedical.com, see if it's offered for you. And remember to use promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. Again, promo code LOCKEDON for $20 off your purchase. Now we get back into it as the Nationals, it's going to be an interesting offseason. A lot of people could be thinking that the Nationals might be making a race for 500 this year, maybe a wild card contention. Well, there's a lot of different things that have to happen, because we all know this, that the Nationals, they've got some holes to fill. They truly do. There's holes all over the infield. There's some holes in the outfield, but also those holes, it comes with a little bit of a worm inside of it. And that worm are those minor league prospects. Listen, the Nationals, I want them to spend. I want them to get better. And if you were to talk about one way to get better instantly, yes, it's by spending your money. But it's also not just about spending your money. It's also about getting your prospects up, your first round picks up, the guys that you have developed in your system to make it, number one, cheaper, And number two, you can kind of spend your money wisely and spend it on holes that you may not be able to fill, like a first base situation here with the Nationals. But we kind of got into it here this last segment as to why the Nationals shouldn't fill too many holes yet. And it's because of this. Let's say the Nationals were to sign, I don't know, a center fielder. Let's say you signed George Springer over the last few years, whatever it is. Let's say you signed George Springer. The Nationals a few years ago, that's a bad example. Name that star center fielder, the Nationals, that everyone's like, oh, we want to sign this. We want to sign him. Name that guy, whatever it is. Let's say the Nationals were to go out there and sign or trade for a center fielder. You know who's also a center fielder that is not that far up from the major leagues? You have James Wood. You have Dylan Cruz. Those are two guys right now that, for example, if the Nationals were to go out there and spend on a free agent outfielder, you are now blocking your two hottest commodities and two of the best outfielding prospects in all of baseball right now. The Nationals, while over the last few years it may not have seemed all too great, but the bad that it's been since 2019, it's all still a calculated mess. This is the reason as to why teams, quote unquote, tank, is to get hot commodities like James Wood and like Dylan Cruz. The Nationals took Dylan Cruz number 2 overall in this past draft in 2023, and James Wood was the big return of that Juan Soto trade. So when you talk about guys and not really trying to fill too many holes yet and kind of lay the carpet before the horse, you don't want to go out there and just spend on guys just to spend. Because the Nationals, they've done this quote unquote tank for a number of years now. They've been, they were not going to say this out loud, but the team that they have put on the field tells us we know we're not there yet. We know we need to build up the farm system. We know we need to trade away Candelario for prospects. We know that we need to trade away Juan Soto for prospects. And the reason why that is because they didn't have those prospects to begin with. So if the Nationals, if they were to go out there and let's say spend on a center fielder or a third baseman, it wouldn't necessarily be the smartest move out there. Would you be getting better right then and there? Sure, you would be. But also, it's not really just about getting better right then and right now. It's also about letting your prospects come up, develop, let them come up and help the team win, because you have had these assets in your farm system, cooking, developing, all those different things in order to help your team win. And if you were to sign someone, let's say, again, just name that big time player in any position, you could be blocking the likes of a Dylan Cruz or a James Wood, or down the line, maybe a Jake Bennett, maybe a Cade Cavalli. Guys like that, guys down in your farm system that you know will have an impact at some point on your major league roster. So in order to do this, the Nationals, if they are going to spend, you have to do it wisely. You shouldn't just go out there and spend on a bunch of random guys to fill your entire outfield or infield, whatever holes you need to fill here. You have to have some patience here. And you also have to have some awareness with guys like, for example, Robert Hassell. This time last year, Robert Hassell was certainly a big part of this Nationals future. A lot of people thought he was going to be making the jump at some point this year, even after his struggles down in AA Harrisburg in 2022. As we know now, it's a little bit up in the air at this moment in time. He had a really bad 2023. He didn't look encouraging in the fall league as well. His strikeout rate is up. Everything has kind of been off with Robert Hassell. So that is kind of out of this equation now, but still, it's even beyond that. You still have James Wood, you still have Dylan Cruz, and you still have even more guys down, kind of deep down in your farm system, whether that be Jacob Young, who cracked the majors this year. You also have guys like Christian Vaquero, Dalen Lyle, Elijah Green, that could still kind of pan out and take over some of these opportunities. It's all about the prospects right now. Simple as that. And as I want the Nationals to spend, as fun as it would be to be able to talk about Pete Alonso over at first base, or Anthony Rizzo at whatever the guy could be, or Aaron Nola in the starting rotation, I would love that for the record. But you also have to have your eyes set on the future. And if the Nationals, if you're going to waste a year of Aaron Nola, or Blake Snell, whatever it is, maybe you're not going to see what Jackson Rutledge could do. Maybe you won't see what Cade Cavalli could do. Now, again, in this hypothetical, I'm not the highest on Jackson Rutledge. I like Cade Cavalli, but if you're going to sign Aaron Nola, I'm not telling you not to do that. That is obviously the right decision that's going to make your team better down the line. But still, you have to be cautious about the holes that you may fill in order that you don't block one of your top prospects. You don't want to have a situation where you're just having Brady House cooked down in the minor leagues and he's killing the baseball. And all of a sudden, you have Jeimer Candelario up here. He's killing the baseball. What are you going to do? Bench him? Move him to a new position? Because at the end of the day, think back to when Trey Turner came up. He was a shortstop as well as, he could have played center field, in which he did his rookie season. But the Nationals, they found a place with him out there. But that was never really his natural position. That was always going to be a shortstop for Trey Turner. But with that said, it was blocked up in the majors with Danny Espinosa, with all those disastrous shortstops that the Nationals had in that season. But in order for the Nationals to really do this in the right, smart way, you can't be blocking prospects that could be coming to impact your team very shortly, hopefully. So thank you guys for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day. And Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So now we're going to get into some sad news. Baseball world. Oakland Athletics will be no more. We'll discuss after this. And now we get back into it as the Oakland Athletics, yesterday, it became official. The Oakland A's are no more. They will be officially leaving to Las Vegas. And man, what a gut punch of a day. I do want to pull up this quote from John Fisher, the acting owner of the Oakland Athletics. And let's just be honest, this guy really stinks. Just awful. Really awful. The Oakland A's, unanimous decision by Major League Baseball. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, because here's the thing. We know what it's like to lose teams here in Washington, D.C. We've lost the Senators. And for the old-time fans, you probably understand this, about how much it sucks, about how the business of sports really just comes at you in your face. But even then, it just sucks even more that the way that this has ended with Fisher and the A's, and really with Major League Baseball as well, it's been a joke from all around. All corners that you look at, all the crevices that you can look and see and peek your eyes into, it is a joke. The Oakland Athletics, the way that they have run their franchise over the last few years, have just been putrid. It's been bad. They don't spend money. They don't invest into the stadium. They don't invest into the organization. And I think, a lot of this is maybe a little bit blown out of proportion. Like, I'm sure there's some perks about being an Oakland Athletic, but just look at the stadium itself. Look at it. While it's not all on Fisher, like, obviously there is some to do with Oakland as well. I can spin both those plates. But at the end of the day, the billionaire and the really warranted billionaire, you're expected to be at the forefront of this and hopefully to get a better situation, not only for your players, but as well as for your fans that invest in you. Now, here's the problem with Oakland. A lot of people would say, well, no one was showing up to games anyways. Let's go back to the last part here. Investing in your fans and investing into your players. Has Fisher done any of those at this stage? Has he invested into the team? Not all too much. Yes, you can talk about a handful of $3 million signings here and there. Sure, no problem. We can talk about that. That's not investing in the year of 2023. What about the stadium? How has the stadium experience gotten better? Yeah, they got great grass in the outfield, one of the better in Major League Baseball. Come on. That stuff, while it's nice, that's not investing into your fans. Sure, it's investing into your players at the end of the day, but that's not what the players or the fans want. The fans, they just want to be heard. We want to be heard. And at the end of the day in Oakland, it just didn't seem as if the fans were really getting into Fisher's head there. They tried all the protests, everything that they could in order to try to stop this. And ultimately, this was a freight train that was always going to be going off the tracks. And it did yesterday with Rob Manfred and as well as the rest of the owners making sure that Las Vegas will be getting their team. It's a crappy situation, but this one quote from Fisher really stood out to me. Really did. And I can't believe that he said it. I'm trying to pull it up here, but John Fisher ultimately failed Cleveland. He ultimately did. And at the end of the day, when he said this, it just was jaw-dropping, to say the least. And of course, my computer just stalled out as I'm trying to pull this up. But you get the point. John Fisher said something like, it's a tough day for Oakland A's fans, but it's a great day for Las Vegas. Something like that. Tone deaf. Stupid. So many words that could be used to describe what John Fisher said there. Idiotic. A lot of different things that could be used. And that's the nice way to put it, if we're just being honest. Listen, I've always liked the Oakland A's. I've always kind of been a small market Clary, you could say. I always like the small market teams. I root for them to do well. But man, it is a tough one to root for that guy, Fisher. This was the exact quote now. Today is an incredibly difficult day for Oakland A's fans. Then it's a great day for Las Vegas. Come on, man. The Oakland A's that have been there, that have been an institution there with Oakland for quite some time now, playing at the Coliseum, in which that stadium has been falling apart over the last 20 plus years. You did nothing to help it. You did nothing to help that fan base. You did not spend the money in order to help get your teams above that, hump that they've never gotten over here recently. And the A's, they've had talent. They've had a ton of talent over the years. They just haven't been able to get it done. And in this case, you look at ownership and say, it's on you. And I 100% agree that it is on John Fisher. Thank you guys for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. You guys can catch Monday's episode as well. Coming up here in a few days, it'll be a fun one as we continue to jump into free agency. And maybe the Nationals will start making some nice little moves. We'll discuss that and much, much more on Monday's show. But until then, I'll catch you on the flip side.